In the previous lecture, I shared with you the desire of men for diverse sexual partners and their tendency to avoid parental responsibilities. However, in reality, most men still choose to marry and have children, and most men do not cheat on their spouses. In today's lecture, I will discuss what restrains men's sexual desires and leads them to return to their families instead of seeking extramarital affairs. Who leaves the most inheritance for their grandchildren? Psychologists conducted a study to investigate which of the following people would leave the most inheritance for their grandchildren: grandfathers, grandmothers, paternal grandfathers, or paternal grandmothers. The answer is simple: paternal grandmothers. Why? Because women provide not only eggs, but also the uterus in which fertilized eggs grow into babies. Therefore, women can always be 100% sure that the child they give birth to is their own. Men, on the other hand, are not as certain. Their wives may have cheated on them and given birth to a child with another man. This is why, on average, mothers love their own children more. When this relationship is extended to the third generation, only grandmothers can be 100% sure that their grandchildren are their own blood. Therefore, they are more likely to leave the most inheritance. As a result, grandfathers are likely to leave the least inheritance because they are the least certain that their grandchildren are their own blood. The study results confirm this. The Achilles heel of men, the virgin complex. The biggest problem men face in procreation is the infidelity of their sexual partners. This phenomenon is not unique to humans but is also common in the animal kingdom. Here, I will use the model couple of the animal kingdom, the bowerbird, as an example. Bowerbird are used to describe lovers because people have found that they have a monogamous lifestyle and seem to love each other. However, when biologists used modern genetic testing techniques to identify the blood relationship between bowerbird fathers and sons, they found that bowerbird sexual partners are rarely unique. Infidelity is common among both male and female bowerbird. Biologists have also found that animals that appear to live in pairs, such as birds, wild mice, and small apes, have offspring that are not all sired by the man of the house. This is the Achilles heel of men. Is this cute little baby my partner just gave birth to really my blood? This is why men develop a virgin complex mentality. The so-called virgin complex does not refer to the worship of the hymen in primitive societies. It is actually a psychological phenomenon that refers to the anxiety men feel because they are unsure if their children are their own blood. Am I raising someone else's child? This was a perpetual confusion for men before DNA paternity testing technology was available. Female infidelity, the game of offspring investment. So, what motivates female infidelity from the perspective of gene transmission? In the previous lecture, I mentioned that men invest very little in their offspring and are always pursuing diverse sexual partners and sexual accessibility. If this behavior is indulged, women who invest heavily in their offspring will not only suffer losses, but also face survival problems for themselves and their offspring. However, women also have an advantage: they can be 100% sure that the child they give birth to carries their genes. Therefore, women do not need a virgin complex. Furthermore, women use this as a weapon to defend their rights as major shareholders in investing in their offspring. The specific action is to have extramarital affairs. Having extramarital affairs can bring at least 4 benefits to women. The first benefit is resource acquisition. When women are with multiple men, they can obtain more food, money, or other resources, and they can also obtain protection that their current spouse may not be able to provide. In addition, they can obtain resources from multiple partners by confusing the identity of the child's father. The second benefit is genetic gain. If the spouse is infertile, women can have offspring through extramarital affairs. In this way, women can also seek genes that are more superior than their spouses because genes are selfish and pursue more excellent and healthier genes to achieve pairing and better transmission. In addition, if women have offspring with multiple men, their offspring will have genetic diversity and a greater chance of survival. For example, suppose a woman's spouse carries a disease-causing gene that may cause all the children in the family to die before they reach adulthood, making it impossible for the woman's genes to be passed on. Genetic diversity can effectively resist environmental changes. The third benefit is the ability to change spouses. Women can seek a better husband by having relationships with multiple men, thereby freeing themselves from the control of their original spouse. The fourth benefit is revenge for their spouse's infidelity. By having extramarital affairs, women can retaliate against men's sexual infidelity and even prevent their husbands from having further affairs. Psychological studies have found that when husbands feel that other men are eyeing their wives, they become more loyal to keep their wives. Therefore, if we compare the main purpose of male infidelity, it is to spread their genes more widely. The purpose of female infidelity includes this factor as well as psychological and social motives. Therefore, from this perspective, female infidelity is more of a game for human females. As a result, men have a natural tendency to cheat, while women use extramarital affairs to play games. Do you remember the prisoner's dilemma we talked about earlier? In this situation, the worst result of the prisoner's dilemma occurs: men's infidelity and avoidance of commitment force women to have extramarital affairs to obtain resources for survival. Female infidelity makes the identity of the child's father more ambiguous, making men less willing to invest resources in raising their children. This vicious cycle of the prisoner's dilemma makes children lack the resources and care they need to grow, making them more likely to die prematurely, making it difficult for both male and female genes to be passed on, and ultimately causing both parties to suffer losses. This forced contract that humans invented to break the prisoner's dilemma in male-female relationships is called marriage. Breaking the prisoner's dilemma in gender relations, the mechanism of marriage. How can marriage break the prisoner's dilemma in gender relations? Let's first examine the conditions proposed by both men and women in the marriage contract. As one party to the contract, the man proposes the following conditions. The woman must remain chaste before marriage, meaning she has not had sexual relations with any man before marriage, which is referred to as the virginity complex. The woman must remain faithful after marriage and cannot cheat. If the wife's fidelity cannot be ensured, it means giving away one's resources to other men's offspring. As the other party to the contract, the woman proposes the following conditions. The man must participate in a ceremonial ritual and publicly declare that he will give up pursuing other sexual partners. This ceremony is called a wedding. In the West, this ceremony is held in a church to restrain male sexual desire with religious power. In China, many places still require a wedding ceremony to be held in addition to obtaining a marriage certificate from the Civil Affairs Bureau. The man must take responsibility for providing resources for the family, including housing, food, and resources for the growth of children. From this perspective, some men who emphasize that the house should be paid for and the mortgage should be repaid together by both husband and wife are actually undermining the marriage contract. For men, the marriage contract largely solves the anxiety of the virginity complex. On the one hand, the husband has 100% sexual accessibility to his wife. If the wife has repeated sexual contact with her husband throughout her menstrual cycle, the probability of the wife becoming pregnant with her husband's child will greatly increase. On the other hand, due to the constraints of marriage, the sexual accessibility of other men to his wife theoretically becomes zero. This increases the certainty of the father-son relationship and also reduces the competition between men. For women, the marriage contract also solves the problem of resources for raising offspring. First, the husband has the obligation and responsibility to use all the resources he obtains for his family to ensure the survival and growth of his wife and children. In reality, we can still see the tradition of husbands handing over their monthly wages to their wives. Second, public ceremonies such as weddings let other women know that this man no longer has extra resources for other women and children. This greatly reduces the sexual accessibility of other women to this man. The outward manifestation of the marriage relationship is also reflected in the Western tradition of wearing wedding rings after marriage. The purpose of the wedding ring is not for aesthetics, but to declare that this person is already married and no one other than their spouse can have sexual relations with them. The marriage relationship is subject to moral constraints and legal protection. In addition, marriage is also a bond that maintains emotional connection. The two people in the marriage stay together for a long time, allowing them to better understand each other's personalities and making it more difficult to conceal sexual infidelity. Therefore, through marriage, the prisoner's dilemma between men and women is perfectly resolved.